For the sake of comparison, I'm just going to do a side-by-side comparison of the BV1800 and the BV1900ts by Bonavita. So you can see that they've got a very similar design right off the bat. The old model, the 1800, which is here on the left, slightly bigger carafe in terms of width. And I suppose they look like they're about the exact same height. This is slightly wider body in terms of the reservoir. But the stainless steel, maybe it's just because this is a newer one and it hasn't been through really any use yet, just looks shinier, not as brushed. The reservoir is obviously different. This kind of has a dark, I don't know if it's a UV protection type plastic, but I found it was pretty difficult to see where the water was. This one, however, is lighter and easier to see. The left side has a level indicator that is measured in liters, and the right side cups, just like the previous model, although this doesn't have a 2-cup level indicator. It starts at 4, whereas the 1800 has 2 to 8, actually 1 to 8. You can see the 1 mark right there. And as they say on both of them, 1 cup for them is about 5 ounces. The lid, rectangular, circular, so just slight design differences. The vent for the steam, you can see the differences there. Let's look at the actual carafe. Okay, so here's the lid that is going to be screwed on to the carafe afterwards, just like that. The lever you push down to pour the coffee. The filter basket. Now this is one dramatic difference. So this is Conical filter basket, and I don't know if you can tell, probably have to get in the light here, but the hole is a little bit above the bottom, and they say that this was for extraction purposes. I don't know why, but there's always some coffee left over in the bottom because it's not going to be able to get through the hole as a result. So that's actually changed in the newer model. I'm just going to take this filter out. So it's a flat bottom basket. So one of the major differences. And that means all of the coffee, the brewed coffee, is going to go through to the bottom. Or I should say into the carafe. Now let's take a look at the shower head. So this is the 1800s. So you can see there are roughly 5 holes right across the middle there, and then there's 2 on the outside. So 1 here and then one there. So there's a total of what, 7 holes where the hot water is coming out, and it's like an X pattern. Now the 1900, I'm not only seeing those 5 same holes across the middle, but I'm seeing, instead of 1 on each side, there's now 3 on each side. So add 4 more into the mix and you have 11 holes versus 7. So that is gonna equal more even extraction, so long as the water comes out of all of the holes. I noticed in the 1800, one of my issues was that I didn't always see the hot water coming out of all the holes in the shower head. So one last thing is the switch. So the 1800, auto off, it just switched on and it would shut off after I think about 2 hours. So nothing fancy there. The 1900, however, has a switch that if you hold down for 5 seconds, it will do, I think, about a 1-minute bloom. I have to verify that. And then the button just goes back to the original position. It doesn't stay in the position for on. So really, to just start a brew, you press it once. To do the bloom, you hold it for 5 seconds and it will bloom. So I'm going to do blind taste test on a few people, including myself. Same coffee to water ratio in both. And we'll actually also get the Brazen Plus in here eventually to see how three coffee makers compare in terms of taste, brew speed, and a few other things. One more critical thing I forgot to mention, the 1800 carafe, that's the old model, has a glass-lined thermal carafe. Okay? And many people will report issues of crackage. I've never had crackage in the roughly 2-year period I've owned it. 1900 has stainless steel lined thermal carafe. So maybe it's saying something, that Bonavita is doing that. They're thinking maybe it keeps the coffee hotter longer. Who knows? Maybe less liability. I've heard some horror stories from glass breaking, but I think if you take good care of it, that being the 1800 carafe, you won't have that issue. So this is how each carafe pours. This is the 1800. So there's a little drip at the top, as you can see. Not too much spillage, which is always good. Now let's look at the 1900. It's got a pointer spout, and that looks to be a pretty nice pour, and zero spillage. So just one thing to keep in mind. I think the spout design is a significant improvement. Also, you'll notice the lid on the 1800 just twists on pretty loosely, whereas the 1900, and I'm going to have to, hold on a sec. I'm going to have to put down the phone. Or I should say the camera, which I use as a phone. So you can hear I'm struggling with it. I mean, it really is pretty stubborn. You have to push it in. And then twist. It's just not going to be possible to do with one hand. It's not that it's hard. I'm just, hold on a second. Push down, then you twist. And it's really a nice airtight feeling. So that's good. Not a bad thing, unless you only have access to one of your hands. Okay, so the last thing we're going to compare here are the brew speeds of each brewer. So how long does it take to brew a full pot of coffee? I'm also going to be looking at the shower heads to see if the water is coming out of every hole. And you'll notice again that the BV1900 has about 4 more holes in the shower head. So one of my issues with both of these brewers is that I've seen that the water isn't coming out of all of them at all times. I don't know if this is intentional or not, but to me it screams inconsistency. So I'm going to be looking at that, and then the last thing to look at is water temperature, of course. So I'm going to try and stick a thermometer under the shower head to see what temperatures are clocking in on both machines, and then what the final temperature ends up being in each of the respective carafes. They're each missing their filter baskets, but it's not necessary here. We're just really looking at water and simulating a brew as if there were coffee. So I'm just going to get started by flipping both switches. And there they go. So I'll turn this back on once the water starts coming out, but actually I want to just wait and see which one starts first. So you can already hear the BV1800 getting started. 1900 hasn't made too much noise yet. Okay, so here we go with the 1800. And it looks like right now it's coming out of every hole that it should be coming out of. So that's a good sign. And our 1900 has started. And look, it's only coming out of maybe 2 or 3 holes at the moment. So that's a little bit disconcerting. Alright, I'm going to get my thermometer out as these are brewing. Just see what temperatures we're clocking in at. So BV1800, I have it right under the shower head. It's going up. 160. Okay, so I'm not sure if this is the best way to measure temperature because there's such, I should say, so little water coming out, but that's nowhere near what the SCAA says it should be. Let's look at this BV1900. Yeah, so that's clocking in around 155. I have no idea what's going on with the shower head here. It's only coming out of a couple holes, and that... Okay, now it's coming out of some other ones. I don't know, I can't recognize the pattern here, so I'm just going to let it play out. But I'm going to measure out the temperatures and tell you the times after this is done. Okay, so the 1900 just finished, the 1800 still just wrapping up. They're basically the same speed. I mean, with the 1900 a little bit faster. I frankly have no idea if the bloom was working or not on the 1900. I really never know when it's on. You're supposed to hold down this switch for 5 seconds till it flashes and then do this again, but I really couldn't tell you. And in any case, they were both about the same speed. Let's look at what water temperature we're getting in the carafes. This will help us compare glass line to stainless steel. So 166.5. To 165.6. So very similar. I'm actually missing the lid to the 1900 at the moment, so I can't compare the temperatures over time, but I imagine it wouldn't be too much difference.